Let's go to our friend Bimnet Abibi from Galaxy Trading. As always, Bimnet, welcome to Galaxy Brains.
Thanks for having me.
It's been a wild week.
Yes,
we were 38K Bitcoin over the weekend, and we ran to 40K, and then we didn't stop running, and we ran to $44,000. Currently, effectively there, 43,965 as we talk. But good gosh, what have you seen?
Genuinely, I'm amazed at the price action, but I think it speaks to convexity of thought, right? And the positive, feedback loop that positive price action has. And so, put differently, people start to FOMO the higher the price goes, and the rationale associated or attributed to why the price is going starts to make more and more sense or gets more and more validated as price continues to increase. And so, I think what you're seeing is basically all of the merits of Bitcoin and the positive catalysts that are becoming more and more evident to more and more people. And it's coming at a time when broader risk markets are trading really well. It's coming at a time when, the Fed is likely going to be cutting and not putting a drag on financial markets. And it comes at a time that's before the ETF and the halving. And so there's just a lot of pieces that are coming together. And I think folks are probably still dramatically underestimating the amount of flows that are just going to come into this product once an ETF is there. Basically, for 14 years of Bitcoin's existence, it's been one of the hardest products to own ever or to trade, right? Like you go on your Coinbase, or whatever app you're on, the spreads are ridiculous, custodying it, not being sure whether the place you're custodying it really has your tokens, not being sure the exchange is real, right? Not being able to get financing or borrowing. There's so many things that get solved, right? You enter into the ecosystem that is all of these, retirement funds that, just accumulate assets, all these passive flows. And then lastly, and most importantly, like the biggest people in the world are telling you that this is a real asset and it belongs in your portfolio. I don't care who the hell you are. When Larry Fink gets on fucking TV and tells you it's a safe haven and is about to launch a huge product.
And you're about to need it.
I don't care who you are, how smart you are. That man has $10 trillion in assets under management.
Yeah.
He speaks, you listen.
Yeah.
And so I think there's just been a complete paradigm shift in the thinking around crypto, and rightfully so. And now people are like, oh shit, Bitcoin's at 44K. And I'll tell you how hard it is in this market. I'm a Bitcoin bull. I've been one.
Yeah.
And everybody can listen to the podcast going back a year.
They know.
They know Alex Thorne is an OG Bitcoiner. I mean, goes way, way back. And we're still shocked at this price action a little bit. But in theory, it's so crazy. It's like, why are we so scared of our thesis being right?
Right.
This is the manifestation of like all that we have been talking about for years, just manifesting itself on price.
Yeah.
And, like it's gonna continue. Like why couldn't you be at 60K in 2 weeks?
No, you could.
Right? I personally don't like assets that rush up in value that much.
I agree. You want to settle a bit. That's what was nice in the 30s, right? We sort of like gained steam, ground up, but built a better base down there. Yeah.
But now it's just it's getting a little uncomfortable. But I don't think that's gonna deter people.
Yeah.
It might encourage more and more of them, to be honest with you. But you know what? The last thing I want to touch on, or not last, but one of the things I want to touch on is it's just the supply side dynamics, right? Like you've talked about how much supply hasn't moved in over a year.
It's like 80%.
80%.
Yeah, that doesn't happen in financial assets.
Yeah, the float of this thing is really small.
Yeah.
And like, I just don't know, like there's going to be an inflection point in the flow that takes
it
you
just tips it all the way over.
Just tips it all the way over where there's just no offer side liquidity. Could that come at like 3 billion of incremental flow? Could that come at 6? Well, I'm not sure.
Right.
But if we're talking about an ETF product that's likely going to draw at least 10 billion in assets, like it's gonna happen.
So one thing I looked at along these lines was if you look on like Glassnode or other tools, you can see the long-term holder supply versus the short-term holder supply. And you can bucket that any way you want. You can call it. I think for that specific metric, they say 155 days held or longer. That's long term. 155 days or shorter, and they have a methodology for why they pick that. But you could look at any time frame. You could say a year versus within last 3 months, whatever it is. The long term holders are still accumulating. They're going up at every of the last two, like December 2017 and fall 2021 bull market tops. Those long-term holders eventually sell to short-term holders, and they dip, right? Which makes sense, right?
Yeah.
They say because the market is searching, it has demand from new entrants, and it's searching for a price at which the long-term holders will give it to them.
Correct.
You haven't seen any decline. You see a continued increase in long-term holder supply, which to me tells me that, well, it absolutely says, well, we're definitely not at the top, because long-term holders did not hold. And imagine if you even bought higher than this or even bought lower than this. You didn't hold through everything we just went through the last 2 years. And then you're like, you know what?
Dump at
43K, that's my number.
Hell no.
Who's selling at these levels?
Hell no.
Right.
Like,
it doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make any sense.
And you can see it also in exchange balances and a variety of other metrics. We're just not there yet. And to your point, there are plenty of reasons for it to go higher. There's narrative events. There's market access vehicles,
actual supply shocks.
Actual supply things happening. So it's
and
an exciting time.
Historically, I mean, I think a lot of assets, especially ones with as much frenzy as crypto and Bitcoin, like you typically top with a blow-off top candle.
Right.
Like with a blow-off. Like it moves 10,000 points in a day, and it's like, oh my God, this is going to infinity. You haven't had that moment yet.
No.
And you're not even at all-time highs.
I mean, the price action from 28 to 35, and then the grind that we did for like 2.5 weeks where we just sort of grinded up to 40, that was one of the most bullish charts I've ever seen. I mean, it was like, it was flat. It was a relatively tight range, but not actually flat, just slightly higher and higher and higher, but like
clear trend, higher lows, higher
just
highs.
True channel. It shows significant ongoing bid, right? And we know where some of it's coming from. We've seen Sailor in the market. We've seen retail aggregators.
Yep.
And the other thing that I like about this is that, we know this anecdotally from our business. Like, there's not a lot of institutions in yet. You can see that there's some institutional money. If you look like CME, shows us we think those
consistently
are
high basis.
But we know, I know a lot of institutional traders that like this asset class, maybe even have traded it in the past, and they're not in yet. And the pain traded for them is higher.
Yeah. I was speaking to a shop today that managed over 10 yards or $10 billion in money, and they still can't touch it.
Right.
And so,
but I even mean of the ones I know can touch it, many of them are just not back yet.
And they're not in real size. And you know what's the crazy part is all of those folks, had they had a small allocation to Bitcoin this year, I mean, they'd be crushing their peers.
I mean, if you bought at the beginning of the year, you're up 150%.
Or even any point this year.
Really, any point. That's true. That's true.
With a small portion of your portfolio, it would have been risk reducing.
We've done the math on that.
Performance enhancing.
It is.
And again, it's so crazy. I mean, in this meeting today, I was just like, the guy was like, it's so hard to ignore this thing. It's up 150%.
Wait until it happens again. That's what I'm saying. Let's say you have the mandate to do it. You're one of the funds that actually can already gain access, and you haven't this cycle.
Yeah.
Let's say we hit 50 just for simple math. You're telling me that in just the last 3 months, you missed a 65% move in an asset you're bullish on? That you have a mandate to invest in? Wake up, portfolio managers. This thing is not.
I know.
And by the way, I say this, it might feel like you're late, but like we're saying, people aren't here yet.
I agree.
Look at the Google searches.
No, yeah.
There's nothing.
It's got room to go. Yeah.
That's what I mean.
So I think you're hitting on an interesting point where you've kind of flipped in the sense that, let's say at the start of this year, right, if you're a risk manager trying to get crypto into a portfolio, when you go up to your board or your whoever makes the final decisions, it used to be that you like it was more risk than it was worth.
Right.
Right. Like if you're a treasury manager or like somebody managing a large pool of money, like why are you going to stake your reputation on this thing? And now it's like, why didn't you?
Right.
And so the tables have so turned.
Oh, they have
Yeah, no, it's great.
They really have. I mean,
Yeah,
again,
no,
like,
absolutely.
and it will be more
And we're
true.
just even talking about Bitcoin. Like, there's so much else going on in crypto right now. So many.
There really
exciting
is,
things. But it's like it's not even relevant.
I mean,
in
like,
the context of
there is
Bitcoin.
interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Well, let's save it for another day because
No, absolutely.
the Bitcoin move, it really did. I mean, even last week, I think you rightly said, and I've said too, that like, it'd be reasonable for us to have a healthy little dip here. We've been grinding higher. We're up huge. Like, I still think that, by the way. I don't think.
Yeah, no,
I don't think
corrections
it's
happen in bull trends all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's good. I think that helps solidify a base and stuff. So
I mean,
you're
you
not
see
wrong.
it
We're
happen in
surprised.
alts all the time. I mean, you
Literally.
had it
It was like a 20% correction a couple days ago.
Yeah,
and
and a
pretty much
bunch of
everything.
them, yeah.
Bitcoin went down like 1%.
Yeah, I mean, like the Bitcoin DeFi tokens, they had a big correction last night.
Right.
Like, I'm like, oh my god, and now they're back up. It's like,
I mean, they're like levered, right? I mean, almost everything in this space is effectively levered Bitcoin, right? Like
It is,
everything
I agree.
from a beta standpoint.
yeah, except stablecoins.
Yeah, except Salisbury. Let's hope,
But you know
let's hope
what?
they're not.
There was that
Let's hope they're not.
stablecoin
Let's
that
hope
went
they're-
to 3 exits.
Oh yeah, he
intrinsic.
said. Yeah, I don't know what it was, but
It was like the
there's
new
a
Euro stable
There's
that
a Euro
Binance
stable that
launched.
like was trading at $3 instead of $1 or €3 instead of.
whatever. Yeah.
Things can get wacky out there. Look, let's wrap it here because I still feels like a Bitcoin story.
Long
and
live the coin.
yeah, Bimnet Abibi from Galaxy Trading, my friend. Thank you as always.